So a few things before we get started. So I will be switching back and forth in between the um, text layer software and the publication. When we get to the actual forms, I'm gonna leave up my screen on this first so that you guys can see it. And then when I go to input them, I'm gonna be switching back and forth. But I will go through the work that I've done. I'll explain what I'm inputting, and then when I'm in the software, I'll show you how I've input it, and then we'll review it over again before we go on to the next forms. Okay? So I'll try to take my time going through the scenarios to make sure that you guys can kind of see where to put them in, and then we'll review some of the questions afterwards. Okay? With that being said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read the scenario questions. Well, I'm going to read the scenario interview notes first. And after I read the interview notes, we will briefly talk about, are you talking about this one here? Oh, I didn't give you the link. I'm sorry. This is the advanced scenario test here. The best thing about this test is that it's all open book, and so I just put it there in the chat, and it is page 86 in the book. And it's going to be the first one that we have to actually input. There are some scenario questions before it, 1 through 6, but these are conceptualized questions that kind of ask you specific things. And you can find those by referencing your Pub 4012, and I'll do that now too. Oh, yep. So how do we start a new 2025 return? So let's get into it. We click on this button here. You can click on it right there. And it's going to ask us for the social security number, but let's read the interview questions first and then we'll start a return, okay? So interview notes say, Martin is a fifth grade teacher at a public school. Martin and Yvette are married and choose to file married filing joint on their 2025 tax return. Oh, make sure you have one special character. It can't be an at sign, I believe, but it can be like an exclamation point. And make sure that the length is long enough as well. Is a good, and make sure you have a capital. So you can do like practice, exclamation, lab one. And it's in that the link, this one here, the 6744. I got you. If you want to get to this link, you can also just Google pub 6744 and you can always pull this up. 6744, that is the test publication. So we're working off of the pub 6744, the pub 4012, which is our resource guide. This is going to be your best place for information. If you have any questions about where to input anything or what credits apply or how to figure out if somebody's entitled to a credit or status, this is where you find it. This is the booklet that you'll use, the Pub 4012. For the actual test, we're going to be using the Pub 6744, which is this one. And this is the test booklet. It has a bunch of tests in here. The only three that you guys have to take is the intake and quality review, the volunteer standards of conduct, the intake and quality review, and the advanced test. But after today, I believe you guys should be fully prepared. Awesome. Good, good, good. So let's go back to 86 and let's read it. Says Martin is a fifth grade teacher at a public school. Martin and Yvette are married and choose to file married filing jointly on their 2025 tax return. Martin worked a total of 1,600 hours in 2025. During the school year, he spent 275 on unreimbursed classroom expenses. Yvette retired in 2022 and began receiving her pension on November 1st of that year. She explains that this is a joint survivor annuity and she has already recovered 1,259 of the cost of the plan. Martin settled with his credit card company on an outstanding bill and brought the Form 1099-C to the site. They aren't sure how it will impact their tax return for the tax year 2025. The Willises determined that they were insolvent as of the date of the council debt. Yvette won $500 from a prize drawing. Their daughter Abby is in her second year of college pursuing her bachelor's degree in physics at a qualified institution. She received a scholarship and the terms required that it is used to pay for tuition. The Willises provided Form 1098-T and an account statement for this college that includes additional expenses. On Form 1098-T, the previous tax year, Box 7 was not checked. The Willises paid $1,500 for books and equipment required for Abby's course. This information is also included in the college statement of accounts, and the Willises claimed the American opportunity last year for the first time. Abby does not have a felony drug conviction. There are U.S. citizens with valid Social Security numbers. So, based on what we've read here so far, it looks like we have a number of things to address, but we'll kind of do them as we go throughout this return. The first thing to note is when you see X's here, these can be random numbers. You can put any assortment of random numbers here. In real life, they'll have full numbers, so you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, or 555, 555 if you want to, just whatever you so choose to for these that have X's behind them. Additionally, on the intake sheets, just before we get started, it'll say stuff like your city, or it said YS, which is your state, and your zip code. Please, please, please make sure that you use a zip code that's or in the state of Texas or a city that's in the state of Texas. It'll prompt the software to start an out-of-state return, which will totally mess up your return. Okay, so if you're doing the return, make sure that it's a zip code in Texas, and if you want to use 75204, 76133, 75104, if you need an example of one, just let us know and I can get you one, but there's plenty. And again, with the tax documents, you'll see stuff like here we'll have X's after the identification number. If you see X's, you can just fill those in with random numbers. And down here for the state section, we'll leave that blank. So don't put anything in the state sections when we come to the W-2s, but I'll tell you guys another reminder when we get there. So let's start it up. So how we start up a return is we're going to go back to close out that one. We're going to go back to the software. We're here on the front page. We can just click on this button here. We can just hit select here. And then it's going to ask us to put in a social security number and we'll have to confirm it. So typically when we're looking at the return or the intake sheet here, the first thing we got to do is figure out who's going to be the primary in this return. As we can see, we have Martin listed up top with the spouse's information down below. So we'll start with Martin's social. So we see 41600XXX. So let's go ahead and put that in. 416, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have to confirm. So it was 416, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we got that from this one, the Social Security, Martin Willis. And we put it just like this. You don't have to click any of these tabs. It's best you don't. The system, as you're working it, will adjust for any form or status that will change this. So you can always just do a straight basic return. And if it changes anything, it'll adjust for all of these. Oh, and since I already had that one made, I gotta use mine. Actually, I'll just redo it. I'll just do a different random numbers. Oh, 6. And we'll do 5, 5, 5, 5. Oop. And then we just hit start return. And the first thing it asks is, what is their filing status? Based on our interview notes, what is their filing status? If somebody wants to write it in the chat. Married jointly. Married filing joint. MFJ. Yep, that is correct. Nice, nice, nice. So we'll do married filing jointly and we'll hit continue. So now we're just inputting the basic information of the taxpayer. So it asks for the taxpayer's primary name, last name, date of birth, and occupation. Where we find that is if we go down here and we go to our intake sheet that has been filled out. We have their name, last name, date of birth, and occupation. So we'll go ahead and fill in this entire section for both Martin and for Yvette and their date of birth and their address as well. Those Martin. Oh, all caps, please. Every time. Oh 05/01 1964. And he's a teacher. And the system, it does a good job now too. You can adjust the Social Security without having to start a new return, which is absolutely beautiful. So you can adjust it, correct it if you need to right here. And how we find the answers to these is going to be in here. And we see them down here. And he did ask for presidential election, $3 to go to the presidential election for himself. And so we'll add that to it. One thing to note about this presidential election, it's an allocation from a separate fund. It doesn't affect the tax return. Oh yes, you'll always have an intake form. For every single taxpayer that comes, they'll have an intake sheet completed before you see them. We have intakes at our sites that will review the intake sheet and ensure that they have all corresponding documents for it as well. All right, so taxpayer wants the $3 designation just for himself. And we can leave the rest of them blank because they're not legally blind or have an identity protection pin. So we can leave all the rest of those blank. And we'll input for the spouse's information. And her name is Yvette. What's this one? And we'll input her social, which is 417. And her date of birth is 10/08/1955. 10/08/1955. Oop. and she is retired. And it's always a good idea to double check the spelling of their name and ensuring that their spelling of their name matches up with their social. In this instance, it all matches up, but sometimes I've had younger people put their nickname, or sometimes if they're married, the system will automatically populate the last name. But sometimes if they're newly married or they just never got around to it, they may have not changed their last name on their social yet. And so we want to use the name that's on the social. But in this instance, they both have the same last name, so we don't have to worry about it. Additionally, for the kids, if they got remarried or and they had children by someone else, they may have a different last name, and so we'll use whatever names on the socials. And we can leave all of these blank. And we're going to add in the address, which was found here. Mailing address, 1234 Charity Avenue. And make sure to use a Dallas address or a Texas address, Texas zip code. And the reason being is we want to just create a Texas state return. And it says your number, we can just like 817. You can add random numbers here if you like. You don't actually have to put your phone number. In this exercise, they don't use the customer portal, but in real life, if they wanted to use a customer portal, they can put in their email and we can send them a portal, and basically allows them to access the return or any other documents later at a later date if they so choose to. Thumbs up if everybody's gotten this far. They've put in for Martin. We got in Yvette. All right, all right. That's everyone. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So now that we've input that, now we have to add in the dependent. So as you can see, the system pretty much flows pretty easily. So it says now, okay, do you want to add children? We'll say yes and hit continue. And now we have to add in for their daughter, Abby. And typically in the intake sheet, dependents will be here at the bottom. Their information will be listed down here below. But we first so let's go back here. Let's put in her information, Abby Willis. And you see how it populates the last name? It's always a good idea just to double check it. And her date of birth is 0705 2005. 0705 2005. 60830. Make sure. Yeah. And it asks a question, was the individual a U.S. citizen, U.S. national, U.S. resident alien? We'll say yes. And we found that to be true because of right here in this column down below, it says U.S. citizen, resident in United States or Mexico, full-time student, totally permanently disabled, issued IP PIN. So you'll have all of these here. Typically, volunteers will just double check here, or the intake will double check here to make sure that they're a qualifying person, didn't have any additional incomes, and or live with them or paid for maintaining the home here. And then we know their relationship is daughter. Relationship daughter. Number of months lived in home. Number of months lived in home, 12. If they're a full-time student and they're living on campus, it's called a temporary absence. And so they will still technically be living at home for the 12 months. And we know we don't need to check any of these because they didn't mark any of these. So we'll leave all of those blank. And we're done with Abby. Everybody good on that? Quick thumbs up. What means for this person is over 18? So you can still claim a dependent over the age up to the age of 24 as a full-time student on the tax return. The only difference is the credit that they would receive is just the credit for other dependents, but then you would add in the education credit stuff. Will the program we use volunteer site looks exactly like expected? Oh yes. And that's why we work on the software stuff together is because it'll be exactly like this at the tax sites. So the test in itself is to kind of familiarize yourself with all of the different types of documents, all the different types of things you may see, all the different types of scenarios that may happen. And so that's a good thing to note is that the test is a little bit more tricky than what we experience in real life. And the reason being is they're just trying to raise your exposure to everything that may happen. Oh, you're right. Oh, good catch. She is over the age of 18 and a full-time student. We need to check this box because it is says 18. Oh, I keep forgetting people born from the age of 2005 or the age over the age of 18. But yes, we'll check that box. For this example, it won't change anything, but we'll make sure to adjust it. So once we got that in and we continue, now the system automatically takes you to the income section. So if we scroll down a little bit, we encounter our first form. It is our W-2 form. So we have a W-2 form. This is what it looks like in real life. They do have multiple variants of this form. You'll see it in different ways, but the layout traditionally is about the same. Sometimes this stuff will be on top, sometimes it'll be on the side, sometimes it'll be at the bottom. Um, Sometimes you may just see a condensed variant, but the W-2 is the most common form that we see at a site. And that's why it's right here at the top. You can click on this one or hit begin here. Or in the form finder, if you're ever lost about any of the documents and you can't find out where to input it, you can type it here in the top left-hand corner and you can just type in W2 and it'll take you straight there. There was a question about what copies they will bring on paper. Um, Typically everything, honestly. If it's their first year with us, we need paper copies of their socials, IDs, any tax documents that they may have. We will take, it just depends on the site, but we will take virtual copies of W-2s or of interest forms, dividends, anything like that. We'll take virtual copies of. But if they have the paper copy, they're definitely going to bring it. All right, so when we're in the W-2 form, I found it in the form finder, or we can click begin here. The first thing it asks you is whose form is this? So let's take a look. Employee's name, Martin Willis. So we know that it's Martin, who is the primary on the tax return. So we'll put taxpayer. And we can see that the system automatically went ahead and filled in all this information for us. And so we'll scroll down and we have our employer identification number here. We have our employer identification number, which is 35700, followed by the X's, so 35700, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we put that in, as you can see, the system goes ahead and auto-fills this information for us as well. It's a good idea to double check this information and make sure that it's accurate. But if they work at common places, the system will keep that information. So let's say our Amazon or Walmart's and different places like that, the system will keeps track of these employer identification numbers. And as soon as you put it in, like it is in the system, it'll just populate these for you. If it didn't populate these for you, you'll have to put them in. And sometimes it's a good idea just to double check because sometimes it's the corporate office here. So it may not be in the state of Texas, but that's totally fine. Um, Sometimes the corporate office is out of state, like an Amazon or a Walmart. So once we have in the employer identification number and the system populated all the rest of it for us, we can actually put in some numbers. So first we have our box 1, wages and tips box 1. We'll input it as we see it. So we have 39,353 in box 1 and then 3,500 in box 2. So let's do that now. 39,353. And in box 2, we have 3,500. And I'll have to fix these boxes. Let me do it again. 39,000. And the system will automatically calculate these boxes for us. Sometimes it's wrong, however, and so we will have to adjust boxes 3 and 5 depending on if any of the other boxes have stuff filled into it. So let's go back, and we can see that in box 3, we have 41,353. So we'll go ahead and put that in, 41,353, 41,353. And as you can see, the system will automatically calculate the tax withheld for both of these as well. So when these boxes are populated, it'll automatically calculate these boxes for us. And we can just double check. 2563.89, 599.62, 599.62. Awesome. So once we've finished inputting the W-2, let's see what else we have to do. We have something on line 12A as a code of D in 2000. So let's go there. Line 12A. It'll bring a drop-down menu for us. We'll scroll down until we find our code, which was D, and we'll put in for the 2000. Code D, 2000. Drop-down menu, D, we put in an amount of 2000. And on box 13, we have retirement checked. So we'll go ahead and check retirement. Yep. And we'll leave the state information blank. How you guys doing? Did you You got that in? Quick thumbs up. Good. And just like that, we've put in our first form, guys. We've done it. And most returns will end right after this, but for this one, got to keep going. So if you were to add another one, you can hit save and add another in real life, but since we're done with this one, this is what it will look like. It's always a good idea to double check all of your information one more time, either inside of the return before you hit confirm, just go back over it again. Like I said, the most common reject is this employer identification number. So we just want to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that it's accurate. And then we put in our information. Oh, yeah. This part is right here, Christopher. On 14, it's blank. And then for the state information, we won't put that in. We'll leave it blank. Because we're in the state of Texas, we don't pay state tax. So this is irrelevant for the purposes of the tax return for us. If they worked out of state and it shows a different state, then we'll add it, but we can leave it blank. And again, if we input a state here, it'll cause a multi-state return, and we want to keep this clean. All right, so we got our first form in. So now we'll go down to our next form, which is the 1099-R. So once we continue out, there's two ways that we can find this form. We could either click here, Form 1099-R, or we can go to our lovely form finder, type in the form, and then we hit, and it'll jump you straight into it. If you ever get lost or you can't find a form, you just see form, type in the form number, and it'll jump you straight into it. So with this one, it's going to be a little bit more tricky. So we're going to input the basic information first. I'm going to show you guys something that we have to do here. So once we get there, I'll have you guys watch me do it, and then I'll allow you guys to do it yourselves, okay? So let's do the basic information first, and then we'll do the other one next. So first, we got to figure out who is this form for. Recipient, Yvette. So this is for his spouse. Oh, yeah, it's in the chat. I'll resend it. And I can make it a little bit larger for you if you need me to. Is that better for you? Can you see it now? Okay. So we have our recipient, which is Yvette. And so that was his spouse. So we'll click on the spouse and we'll put in the payer's ID. So the payer's ID number is the payer's TIN, which is the same thing. EFIN, TIN are all the same. Payer's TIN is all the same thing. It's just asking, oh, I'll go back. How we found it is we went to the form finder and we just typed in 1099-R. And or if we're going to the form in the income section, there's the fourth row down, 1099-R. We clicked on it and we add a 1099-R. So we'll put in the payers 10, which is 41,200. Payers 10, EFIN, and 10 are all the same thing. For the 41,200, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, it put everything in the system for us. It pulled it up for us, so we don't have to input any of this, which is awesome. And then we'll put in our gross distribution. Our gross distribution is 22,100. And the system will automatically put a taxable portion. It'll auto assume a taxable portion. In this instance, we will leave it blank. We won't put anything here. And additionally, this is supposed to be an X, but it's a little box, but it's checked for the taxable amount not determined. So we'll have to go back to the software and check this box for taxable amount not determined. And then we have some federal withholdings for 2210. So we'll put the withholdings for 2210. And our next box, we have distribution code, and it has a distribution code 7. The distribution codes just tell the software what type of withdrawal it was. We have distribution code 7, and then we have a box 9B for 15,000 as well. So we'll go to a box 9B. We have 15,000. So I'll go over it again. We know that this is his spouse's form because it said so here, Yvette Willis. So we marked spouse. We put in the payer's ID number. Our payer's 10 or payer's ID is 41,200 with the X's. 1, 2, 3, 4. This should have populated for you here. If it didn't, go ahead and input it. Once we have the basic demographic information in, we jump to the right side. Once we jump to the right side, we put in the gross distribution, 2210. We check the box. It auto-populated this box, but we have to remove it. And then we add the taxable amount not determined because this box was checked. And then we have box 4 that has 2210 in it. So we put box 4 income tax withheld for the 2210. We had our distribution code of 7. And so we put distribution code 7. And then we had total employee contributions of 15,000. So we did the 15,000 right here. So this is going to be something that I'm going to do something here. I don't want anybody to leave this page. There's going to be something that you're going to see right now that you probably will never see at a tax site, 100% out of 10. Typically, most retirement companies are very good on their numbers and the reporting of their numbers. So they'll always have, more times often than not, if it's the proper type of retirement account, it will have a taxable amount determined. It will never not have a taxable portion determined. They're really good at their jobs. I've never had a retirement company not have a retirement amount determined. But again, the advanced scenario test is to show you what is possible, not necessarily what will happen. So because we don't know, because the type of retirement we have is a joint survivor annuity, and we don't have a taxable portion determined, we have to figure out what the taxable portion is. In the past, it used to be really rough and it was harder to explain, and it was a lot of numbers and you had to do actual calculations. But the system has graciously done most of the math for us. And what I'm about to show you guys is called a simplified method or a simplified worksheet. So the first thing we do in order to figure out how to figure out this taxable amount is we have to do a worksheet. So we have to click on this button that says click here for options. When we click on the options, we say we don't have a taxable portion, so we go to the simplified method worksheet. When we click on begin, it's going to tell us a couple of things. We're going to hit continue. All right, so now that we're here, we have to input a few different things in order to figure out. If you feel comfortable following along with me, you can. If you want to just watch and see how I do it, it's totally up to you. I just don't want you to get lost because it can be a little confusing. So the first thing it asked for was the plan cost at the annuity start date. So the plan cost was the total amount of employee contributions, which is the 15,000. So we'll put 15,000 here. And the start date of the annuity we found in their interview notes, which is up here. Let me pull it up for you. And she got it November 1st, 2022. So it's 11/1/2022. And this part used to be the worst in the day back in the day because we had to actually calculate the amount of their ages at the start of the annuity date. Because we know that it is a joint survivor annuity, all we have to do now is click this little box and the system will automatically calculate both of their ages at the start of the annuity date. This used to be so hard because I think her birthday was, she didn't have her birthday yet. And so therefore she wasn't, or now it's her birthday. Okay. In the past, she didn't have her birthday yet. And so it was, you had to calculate, okay, she's actually this amount of age and not that age. But you just click the check mark and it'll calculate their ages for us. Once we've calculated their ages, we have to say how many number of months. She started this in 22, so we know she's received it for the full year. So it's 12 months. And we know the amount that was previously recovered was in our interview notes, which was here for the 1,259. So do 1,259. And we've satisfied all of the requirements in order to find the actual taxable portion. So we found the plan cost here on the retirement statement itself for the 15,000. They gave us the start date of the annuity, which was the November 1st, 2022. And we checked the box because it was a joint survivor annuity, and the system automatically calculated the 125 for us. We know the number of months paid in 2025 was 12, and the amount recovered, they told us, was the 1,259. So once we hit continue, it will calculate the taxable portion for us for the 21,519. That's weird. So it will calculate this number for us. So if you guys want to try to do it, I'll leave this up. I'll give you a minute or two to do that. And I'll go back and I'll show how I got there. We clicked on, there's a button that says make changes. We clicked on the simplified method in the worksheet and then we began. And then when we clicked on the simplified method worksheet, this is what we did. And I'll leave that up. You will absolutely never see this at the site. If you get this far into a simplified method worksheet, please see your site manager or have your site manager or quality reviewer handle this. But for the purposes of the advanced certification, it's showing you what is possible. Thumbs up when you're ready. Double check your amounts. And if you double check your amounts, and if your numbers are off, check your date of birth and the for the taxpayers. That will change it as well. Once we've done that, we hit continue. It'll ask us, did you make an early withdrawal from retirement? We'll say no, because she's retired. And then we'll have our taxable amounts here, and we're finished with that form. Sorry, let me, somebody's asking for the link for today. I got you. Yep. So the first thing we did is we input the information in the 1099-R. We know the spouse, payer's ID, payer's ID, payer's name. And when we put in that payer's ID, all this information populated. We put in the gross distribution amount, but we didn't put in the taxable portion because we knew it to not be taxable or not determined because the box here on 2B was not determined. When then we put in our federal income withheld, we'll just input it as we see it, 2210. We had a distribution code here on line 7 for 7, so we put in our 7. And then we put in our, I'll go to the actual form now. We put in our employee contributions for 15,000. So when we're going to put in the